Almost 2 decades have passed since the release of one of the most recognizable and well-received sports video games of all time. As graphics, gameplay, and consoles have changed over the years, the nostalgia of NBA Street Volume 2 has withstood the test of time and still finds itself at the top of many people's favorites. It entered the scene as a revolutionary concept, one that embraced the creative and fun side of the game of basketball, capturing the imagination of anyone willing to pick up a controller. Today, I want to step back in time, back to the days of rushing home after school to turn on the PS2, back to the days of running Rucker Park with legends like Allen Iverson, Pistol Pete Maravich, and the '85 Michael Jordan. Today, I want to take a look at the story behind the greatest sports game ever made. The turn of the century in 2000 brought more than just a new millennial. In the NBA, it marked the birth of a new culture. Gone were the days of separation between the product in NBA arenas and the culture that surrounded the growing popularity of streetball. Thanks to the rise of &1 basketball in the late 90s, as well as players like Allen Iverson and Jason Williams bringing the flair of the streets into the living room of NBA consumers, the flash of the underground game became one of basketball's greatest selling points. With this came new opportunities to tap into this fairly uncommercialized market. Naturally, with the video game boom hitting at the exact same moment in time thanks to the highly anticipated release of Sony's PlayStation 2, a perfect match was born. Video game developer Electronic Arts, whose subdivision EA Sports was responsible for the creation of the popular Madden and NBA Live series, appointed a new studio dedicated to creative and non-traditional sports titles, under the name EA Sports Big. After moderate success with an original concept game under the name NBA Street, the upstart studio in Vancouver, Canada was given a new task, producing a game that captured the heart of American streetball like never before. It took 2 years for the team at the EA Canada studio to develop NBA Street Volume 2. Lead producer Will Moselle was the only member of the team left from the previous NBA Street game, and he was responsible for assembling a group to work on the new project. He put together a non-traditional group of developers, some that had never even worked on a sports video game before, but were dedicated to immersing themselves into the production. Together, they would dive headfirst into a 101 course on the history of streetball and hip-hop culture, drawing an inspiration from books, documentaries, and even visits to some of New York City's most famous courts. One of the biggest creative realizations came from witnessing Nike's classic freestyle commercial that aired during the 2001 NBA All-Star Game. The developers were blown away by how the ad captured the attention of viewers while just focusing on the movement and skill of the players. No flashy slogans or effects, just raw talent. This would become the foundation for NBA Street Volume 2, letting the moves of the players do the talking and allowing the gameplay itself to draw the consumer in. With that in mind, the team pieced together a play style that embodied the fun and excitement of playground ball. From ridiculous crossover moves that left the defense on the floor, to gravity-defying dunks that paid homage to urban legends turned myths like Dr. J. The game took the most extreme, crowd-raising plays and made them the core element. It found the fine line between realistic highlights and arcade-style fiction, a formula that captured the excitement of streetball from the opening tip. Even though the gameplay featured a wide variety of moves and combos that could be pieced together, something that was fairly uncommon for a sports game at the time, it prided itself on also being one of the easiest to learn pick up and play games on the market. Dedicated basketball fans and casual gamers alike could both dive in and find enjoyment in the over-the-top and unpredictable nature of the gameplay. With authentic streetball moves and an intentional focus on user-friendly controls, it was an instant hit with gamers, and provided a brand new way for fans to connect with their favorite sport. In addition to a large number of fictional streetball characters, official NBA licensing with teams in the Players Association, allowed for hundreds of the sport's top players to be featured in the game's playable roster. All 29 NBA teams were represented by their roster's top 5 players, making for one of the most diverse fields of playable characters in any game of its kind. In addition to the top current players of the generation, the licensing with the Players Association also allowed NBA Street Volume 2 to feature a wide variety of the NBA's biggest legends. Everyone from Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, and Dominique Wilkins to streetball icons like Dr. J and Connie Hawkins were available to be unlocked in the game. This included not one, not two, but 3 different playable Michael Jordan characters from different stages in his career, something that had never been done before in a video game. Personally, this wide range of legendary players was one of my favorite aspects of the game growing up. It was my first introduction to some of the game's greatest players that were before my time. The developers did an amazing job of making each legend feel authentic, giving them their own signature moves and skill sets that set them apart, something that wouldn't be common in sports games till years later. The variety and attention to detail created an experience that drew you in as a player, and led to unmatched excitement every time you unlocked someone new. The massive roster of players created an endless number of possibilities to explore. Old school versus new school rivalries that could be played out on the country's most infamous streetball courts. With the creative direction of the game being decided, the next step was finding a voice to give the game personality. Streetball games were notorious for the environment created by the MC at the events. Catchphrases and on-the-spot nicknames were a staple of the experience, and no representation would be complete without it. Enter New York City streetball legend Bobbito Garcia. A well-known MC, promoter, and ball player himself, Bobbito was and is the physical embodiment of playground hoop culture. EA Canada flew him across the continent to Vancouver, where Garcia recorded over 40 hours of ad-libs, nicknames, and commentary, as well as gave the group a personal insight about his world in between sessions. This variety of audio recording created a unique experience that was unheard of for sports games at the time, with every game having its own authentic sound. As far as authentic sound goes, NBA Street Volume 2 also goes down as having one of the most legendary video game soundtracks of all time. From the moment you turn the game on, you're immediately serenaded by the smooth jazz horns of 90s hip-hop. Altogether, the game would feature a 10-song playlist of classic hip-hop music, immersing all who listen into a world as told by infamous MCs like Just Blaze, Pete Rock and CL Smooth, Lords of the Underground, and Nate Dogg. One of the most popular in the world at the time, rap artist Nelly would write an original song exclusively for the game, and in return was made an official playable character that could be unlocked by users. Few soundtracks in the history of gaming have had the ability to transport players into an environment quite like NBA Street did, and the result was a one-way ticket to the streetball courts in New York City. There's a reason NBA Street Volume 2 still lives on almost 20 years later. The stars aligned at the perfect time to create a timeless gaming experience that combined the greatest parts of hip-hop and basketball culture. The developers explored uncharted territories, unknowingly becoming pioneers of many of the popular features we see in today's sports gaming industry. They were the first to feature a Be a Legend mode, where players would create their own custom character to upgrade as they rose through the rankings of the streetball world. They were the first to embrace player-specific gameplay and dive into the creative side of the sport, rather than the simulation. It was a group of people who dedicated themselves to learning about a culture and creating an experience that transported everyone who turned on the game into their world. Personally, I'd love to see the franchise return in some capacity one day, even if it's just with some refurbished graphics and updated rosters. The odds of an official comeback are slim, considering the dismantle of EA Sports Big over a decade ago and the empire that is NBA 2K. But if NBA Street has taught me anything over the years, it's that the memories of the culture and that moment in time will stick with me forever. It's part of what made me fall in love with the game of basketball. In the meantime, part of me holds out hope that someday I'll be able to turn on a console and hear those smooth jazz horns once again. What's going on, y'all? I want to thank you for watching this video. Thank you for your constant support. Don't forget to drop a like, leave feedback in the comment section below, and subscribe for more. Remember to turn on post notifications so you don't miss any of my new projects as soon as they hit YouTube. This video was a little bit different from things I normally do, but hopefully you still enjoyed it. It was really cool to dive into that early 2000s, late 90s culture and learn more about something that was near and dear to my childhood. All that being said, again, thank you for watching. I don't do this without y'all. Feel free to connect with me on social media. The links will be in the description below. As always, this has been Trice. God bless.